I'm Stephen Cox, PGA professional at PGA National. Today I'm going to show you how to get the most from your high-definition golf simulator, with an emphasis on game improvement. We're here at the Bear Trap, our indoor instruction facility at PGA National, where I coach players year-round on our high-definition simulator. Being able to instruct regardless of weather outside is a fantastic advantage. As a professional instructor and tech advocate, I love using this simulator. It's highly engaging and gets students excited about learning. It's also technologically advanced but very easy to use. I'm going to show you how easy it really is to use the professional instruction studio with today's rundown on both video swing analysis and pressure mapping. I can apply critical, real-time visual feedback to reinforce the kinesthetic and audio coaching. It's unbelievable how quickly these tools make a difference in a player's game, whether they're new to golf or a scratch handicapper. Every simulator function is controlled by our touchscreen. I'm going to click on the professional button, converting my simulator from a day on the course to my professional instruction studio. From here, I have 5 main options. We're going to focus on one of them today, but let me briefly summarize the menu choices. Our first is Equipment Compare. This lets me compare apples to apples. I'm able to pull out, for example, 5 drivers and compare shot data by each club to determine which one works best for a particular student. So if you have different shafts, club heads, grips, we can become highly objective and determine, yes, this is the best driver for you. Our next is Custom Club Fitting. This is where we can gap clubs and range them to ensure the student has properly built and adjusted club for every single purpose. We can also try different shaft lengths, shaft stiffness, and use shaft analytics to get the most out of them. The next area that we're looking at is swing analysis. This is where we'll be spending most of our time today. The next area is swing dynamics. This is highly advanced, and we'll cover this in another video. Briefly though, it gives data on shaft flex, acceleration, and impact and tempo. The 8-step swing. This is a great tool for swing improvement if you don't have an instructor or you want to learn on your own. It actually provides interactive coaching based on your swing and was created by world-renowned instructor Jim McLean. When you hit shots in this mode, a digital Jim McLean will appear and coach you based on the shot that you are taking. Okay, I'm selecting swing analysis. We're in the headquarters of the instruction suite. This is where you can actually engineer your swing. I'm going to break it down into 2 main parts: the video swing analysis and weight transfer. Then I'll show you how to use them together for swing improvement. Video swing analysis uses these high-speed cameras, 240 frames per second, with special wide-angle lenses to capture your or the student's swing. We'll get a down-the-line and side video view in slow motion. I have my student Jake here with me, who's a 5 handicap. He's been playing roughly about 20 years of his life and working with me for about the last 3. What we're going to have him do is hit us a shot, and we're going to analyze using all the data from the high-definition simulator to go ahead and refine and improve what he's already doing. So let's go ahead. Jake, why don't you hit us a shot, and we're going to go over what the shot data from the sim is going to give us. Okay. Good true draw. Okay. All right. And what club are you hitting, just so we know?
6.
So 6 iron, and we know that's not quite as far as you typically hit it.
No.
So I want to go ahead. Let's look at the shot data first, and I'm going to put it up on the big screen. And what I want to actually look at is 2 different numbers here. Number one, we already know that the ball didn't travel quite as far as we wanted it to, but that horizontal angle, which is measuring from about waist high to waist high throughout your swing, is going a little bit too much out to the right, or a little too much in to out. So a player of your caliber, we actually want to see that number come down somewhere within 0 to 4. And as a positive consequence, this number here might start turning a little bit closer to 0 or to your left. What we're going to look at next is the 2D down the line and face on of our player's swing. What we can actually do is hit this button right here as drawing tools, and I can go ahead and draw some lines to show me exactly if Jake was moving laterally in his swing, and also what his posture is doing and what his swing plane is actually looking like. A couple of these lines can be really essential to the instructor or to the player in understanding exactly what the club is doing throughout their golf swing. What we can do is in slow motion, we can go ahead and drag with the touch screen and notice how the club goes up that plane that we drew, and also understanding what his hips are actually doing throughout the swing. Now we noticed that he was a little too in to out when we were looking at the data, so you'll notice that that club drops underneath that plane quite a bit and gets him to use his hands a little more than he probably wants to. This is something that we can adjust just through posture and allow him to make small improvements, which essentially gives him a better ball flight. Okay, so Jake's going to go ahead and he's going to hit us a second shot. Now what I want to do is get that club out in front of you a little bit more. So the easiest way we can actually change this without consciously thinking about changing our swing is we're going to get a little closer to the ball. So it's going to kind of feel like your chest is covering that golf ball, your head's a little further forward than it was before. And that should get the club out in front without having to think too much about this one. So Jake, go ahead. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and fire us a shot. Okay, so we have a different ball flight, a little straighter, if not even a little fade bias.
Yeah, it felt really good.
Okay, it felt good. We easily added 25 yards, which is, that's not a little. Let's just take a look at the shot data real quick, and let's see if we changed anything. So I'll put it up on the big screen. All right, so our horizontal angle and our club path really haven't changed too much. But what has really changed, and this is the nice thing about having this little picture here, is you can actually see if you toed or heeled or hit it in the center of the club face. And by obviously hitting it in the center of the club face, we added a lot more ball speed. So that interaction with the club hitting the ball was in the center, made the ball speed go up, and that obviously changes our shot distance. So what I want to do is take a look at our 2D, so down the line and face on, and see, all right, did we really drop that club too much under plane, or could we maybe work on something with our feet that would get the club out in front of us a little bit better? And that would really help us narrow down what the ball flight is really doing, so we're a little more consistent. So let's take a look at the 2D. So Jake, I'm going to take this down, I'm going to go back, and I want to, there we are on the big screen. I want to just draw a couple lines so that we understand really what we're doing. So I can go ahead and draw a couple different lines here. I can put one on each hip just to see if we're making any lateral motion throughout the swing. And I can also draw a couple other lines here. One goes down the shaft plane, which is what we were talking about earlier. And I can also draw one on our tail side that shows me if you're maintaining your posture throughout your swing. And we're going to just glide our finger nice and slow so we can actually see the club being taken away, which is obviously out on top of that line that we just drew. You notice that your hips are very stable and they don't move too much. Now what I want you to notice is on the way down, does our tail side stay on that line, which it looks like it does, but you also notice that the club head goes a little bit underneath that line, which is what we were trying to fix by getting a little closer to the ball.
Causing them to draw.
Okay. Pretty good. A little extra torque with our hands on the way through, and we stand up a little bit away from that line. So what we can actually do is take a look at the pressure tracing and see if our footwork is as clean as it could be. We want to make sure it's nice flowing pressure trace, and that might actually change the interaction with the club and the ball.
Got it.
Okay, Jake, we just got done checking out the 2D and how we can draw the lines and that visual for yourself. Now, if you're by yourself, we have another perfect method that actually synchronizes your swing with what we would consider the perfect swing. And that's a combination of Ernie Els, Tiger Woods, Ben Hogan, the best swings the world has ever seen, and hopefully you can take that overlay and match yourself to it to help improve your game without the instructor there. So what we actually do is we're going to go ahead and just push this overlay button. And what that does is it brings up this little avatar or overlay figure on top of yourself. And you can actually bring it back. You can see that there's two different buttons that you can hit so that you can actually send the little overlay into a perfect takeaway position, or the lead arm parallel, or all the way to the top of your swing. And we can see, now dragging this button, how close you are to the top of the swing that perfect swing is trying to show you. And at the top, you notice that your body is slightly moving a little forward. The club's a little deeper than what that avatar is trying to show you how to do. And you also notice what's really good is that your head's up just a little tiny bit from it, but your tail side's really tucked into that same position that overlay is trying to tell you to get into. What this is really great is for not only visual feedback for yourself, but you can try and create that consistency of what I feel and what's actually happening at the same time, and really integrate those two learning processes together. Now that Jake and I have analyzed his swing in multiple areas, we're going to take this exact swing and everything that you're looking at here, and we're able to upload it into his player locker online. So when he goes home, he can actually hear what I have to say about his swing. He can go back, he can work on it on his own time on the range or at home in his own simulator. What's fantastic about having that feedback online is that he can consistently go back any point in time to see exactly what he did a week or a year ago and understand how he's progressing as a student. What we're going to do next is actually just push this upload button. As the video uploads into his player locker, it allows him to go home and actually watch multiple times what he could be working on at home on his own time. Now we're going to discuss balance and weight transfer. Traditional teaching methods make pressure transfer very difficult to work on with your students. Yet pressure transfer throughout a golf swing is critical. You can have a beautiful swing, but still spray shots all over the course. It's very difficult to observe the micro movements of the feet, which ground the golfer and lock them into a stable position for their swing. How are you supposed to know if the student is transferring their weight effectively to a 60-40 when in all reality they're only at an 80-20? What a student feels compared to what's real has surprising variance. The HD pressure transfer system is the perfect tool to solve weight transfer inconsistencies, so we are actually delivering that visual learning rather than just the kinesthetic. Proper weight transfer is a stroke saver. Everyone with a sim should be using this, and I want to show you how you can actually save yourself some strokes. All right, Jake, before you hit us your third shot, we already checked the 2D and we already checked all the ball flight data. What I really want to do next is talk about this pressure mat that you're standing on, which has over 600 sensors measuring what you're actually doing underfoot. And what's so vital to the golf swing is proper footwork that allows you to focus more on what you're doing with your lower body rather than what the club is doing all the time. And this is a fantastic and very efficient way to actually gain yardage and more consistency rather than focusing what the club and the club face is always doing. So what I'd like to do is actually show the viewer how we can get you 50-50 from your trail to lead foot or your right and left foot, and how this pressure trace actually goes into the center of those crosshairs. It also shows you the toe and the heel of what you're doing front to back. And what we would like to do is also see that very relative to 50-50. That's gonna tell me as the instructor that you're very stable before you go ahead and take that club back. So let's get the crosshairs right in the middle, and as soon as you feel like you've done that, let's go ahead and fire our shot. Very good.
That felt good.
That was fantastic. Okay, so you notice how stable you were before you took the club back. Maybe that didn't feel quite 50-50, but it definitely gave you a fantastic starting point. And so what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and analyze this on the screen here, because we're able to not only see the pressure trace, but we can actually line it up with that face-on view right now. And what you're actually going to see is that pressure ball pressure crosshair, as it goes back, you're going to see it load into that trail heel when your lead arm is parallel to the ground. And then we're actually going to see that pressure trace go a little bit upwards towards the toes. You see how at the top there it shows 64% into the toes as we're bringing the club down into the golf ball. And what we might want to see a little bit more of is a little more heel pressure as we bring the club down. That will help get the club out in front of you. And you'll also notice as you get into impact, we still have roughly 50% of our pressure or weight on that trail side. And that's quite a bit. That means that you're probably flipping your hands through the shot. And we want to make sure that our center of gravity and all of our weight is getting through the shot onto that lead foot a little bit earlier. Okay, so as a goal, we're going to have you hit another shot. We're going to try and work on getting that center of gravity out in front of the golf ball. And we should see that pressure trace start to go towards your lead foot a little earlier and help get that club out in front like we've been talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to put it on live view for you again. You're going to get that pressure right into the crosshairs like we did before. And then we're going to go ahead and try and really drive into that lead heel. So I'm going to put up the live view for you. And whenever you feel like you've got it centered, go ahead and fire us a shot. That was hammered. Yeah, you were really getting into the heel.
Yeah, it felt good. 190.
Again, another long shot. It sounded very compressed. Let's see if your pressure trace has changed. That is completely different than what we just saw. So again, you're at that nice kind of 48 to 52 range. That's very, very good, very stable. You'll notice that you actually drive into that heel. And then what's going to happen into impact, we're going to see how much more of your center of gravity or how much more of your weight got to that lead foot. And if I go ahead into impact here, we're upwards to 65% of our pressure into that lead foot rather than 50. And it probably felt a little more compressed and maybe a little more control. So that's something we can work on, getting that upper body all the way through the shot. We just finished analyzing Jake's swing, and you're probably wondering what a proper pressure trace looks like. I'd like to give you that example. Okay, good draw biased ball flight. And as it's loading, I'd like to take the time and say how good that footwork felt. And as we look at the pressure trace, you can actually see, versus what we looked at before, how it actually drives into my heel, and then it's nearly a straight line all the way to the center of my lead foot. This is something that you can aim for when you're practicing at home. All right, Jake, now what I want to do is take all of these different resources that we have, including the pressure mapping, including the 2D, and even the overlay or the drawing tools, and try and really understand how do we integrate the pressure map with what the shot data is giving us and the 2D is giving us. So let's try and integrate all this together. What I want you to do, go ahead, fire us off a shot, make sure that that crosshair is right in the middle on that 50-50, and then we're going to go ahead and see if we can analyze all of it. Okay, solid swing. Do you feel like your center of gravity got a little bit more out in front of that one. It definitely had plenty of distance, 196 yards. That's a big 6-iron. What I want to do is just double check your footwork and really see. Actually, the footwork, as it pops up, you can see how it kind of has a little peak to it. And I'm going to actually go to that point in your golf swing. When we get up to that peak, it shows you going towards your toes. And that would typically give you, again, a little bit of that in to out and more of that draw bias. And what I really want to see is more of that straighter shot. So I want to make sure that we're driving into the heels next time. I want to verify this, though. We can go ahead and put the shot data up. Now, you did a lot of great stuff. Your horizontal angle is fantastic. It's closer to 0. Your club path is 2.5 into out. That's within that 0 to 4 range that we were talking about. Fantastic improvement. Again, I want to just go back to the drawing tools here. And we'll bring this down back to your original starting point. I'm going to go ahead and just draw this line down the shaft again. Let's take a look and see how you take the club back. It looks like you're going up that line now instead of above it. And let's see how you bring the club back into the golf ball. So did it go underneath? Yes, it did. And as we come into impact, it's almost as if the hosel and that line are matching. So that tells me the club at least was out in front of you a little bit more than it was before. And we can still work on a couple different ideas with your footwork that allow you to make sure that club's well out in front of you and driving into your heels. I'd say plenty of progression that just took place. Again, you can go home and practice this yourself. You could even upload some videos yourself and show me, and I can give you some feedback after a week. You don't have to be on the PGA Tour to use this very simplistic professional video analysis. I hope this video helps you get the most from your high-definition golf simulator.